immediate downtown area. We're east of 65 now. You know, we're going farther and farther away from Fort Knox, which is where this radar is located, so we're shooting higher up into the cloud. So this means that there is a bit of a correction between what you're seeing here and what's actually happening at the surface. In these pink areas just east of the immediate downtown area, we're east of 65 now, right along the eastern part of the Waterson, down along and just east of the Waterson on I-64. East of the malls and heading toward Hurstbourne Parkway, and then down toward the south as well. This is where wind gusts could be over 60 miles an hour. That's being actually seen on the radar at around 1,400 feet, but you bring that down toward the surface, you'll have widespread gusts of 50 to 60, locally 70 miles an hour. Luckily at this point, and I'll ask Matt and Suzanne if they have any other information than what I've seen, no reports of any significant damage or tornadoes. Is that right?
I tell you what, Jared, I stepped outside while really the worst of this storm was coming through our studio doors, and I would have estimated 40 to perhaps a 50-mile-per-hour wind gust. I did get some video with my phone. I'll be posting that on our Facebook and social media websites here in a short order to give you a look. It's likely what you experienced outside your door just a few moments ago. But, you know, Jared, I mean, no damage in our back parking lot, just really it looked like a tropical storm out there with the torrents of rain, an occasional lightning flash, and again, just a persistent 30 to 40 mile per hour wind that at times looked like it gusted a little higher, maybe 45 to 50. Really some good news compared to what the radar was exhibiting down along the Bullitt-Jefferson County line just a few scans ago, with wind speeds perhaps well in excess of 80 miles per hour.
And the second time in a month that we've been approaching record amounts of moisture in the atmosphere in the Ohio Valley for the month of January. So this has just been an incredible month of ups and downs in the weather. Jay, back to you.
And we're getting ready to head back down as far as the temperatures are concerned as we go from, near 70 a couple of hours ago, and we're going to be in the single digits and lower teens by Friday morning. How about that? Okay, also want to pass along, away from your TV set, you can catch us online, WLKY.com, our Facebook pages, and also with our radio partnership through Cox Radio. We're on the air right now with Today's New Country, 103.1. We have Louisville's Country Legends, 103.9, 107.7 The Eagle, and Light 106.9. We got you covered on the radio waves as well. All right, here's the very latest we have for you. Let's go over to the Doppler network. Check out what's going on. There are the tornado warnings for sections of Jefferson County, northern Bullitt County for the next several minutes. But so far, no confirmed touchdowns in and around the metro. We have had some pretty strong winds moving across sections of the metro region. But as we go farther off to the east, those tornado warnings will be downgraded to severe thunderstorm warnings, as they have already been issued from Bardstown up into Taylorsville and Taylorsville Lake, Shelbyville, up to near Newcastle, and also the LaGrange area, as well as Crestwood, where severe thunderstorm warnings are in effect, as I mentioned. Still for winds that could be as high as 50 to 60, maybe 70 miles an hour in a few isolated locations. So take a look at the radar scope, Super Doppler radar here. Plenty of rainfall out there. You go west of downtown, the severe weather threat is done, including the downtown area. The wall of heavier wind and rain is now on the east end of Jefferson County into eastern Bullitt County, down very close to E-Town, running down 65, heading towards Bardstown, heading towards Shelbyville, also heading towards LaGrange. Heavy weather right now in Goshen. It is raining hard. The winds are blowing quite hard. Same can be said across Crestwood. If you're watching from Prospect, Worthington, down to near St. Matthews and Middletown, still some very heavy wind and rain around the area, but it'll quickly start moving out, and conditions will start to calm down. Certainly you're going to need the umbrellas, though, throughout the course of the next several hours, as this rain will be continuing. But this is the zone right there. That is the severe threat, where winds could still be quite high, as Jared was looking at on the analyzer, upwards of 60, maybe 70 miles an hour, especially on the leading edge, the very apex of this, what we call bow echo here. Very classic radar signature for some high winds as this thing sweeps quickly off to the east at speeds of 40 to 45 miles per hour.
And very heavy rain, Jay. You know, we're talking about the rainfall amounts. It could be 1-2 inches an hour in that leading edge. And with the rain that continues back toward the west, as we pull out and show you our regional radar view, it's raining all the way back into western Indiana still. It's going to be a very wet morning commute. You just be very careful out there and watch for some ponding on the roadways. Maybe those low-lying areas could see some flooding this morning, no doubt.
Absolutely. All right, a new tornado watch has been issued as well for areas now east of Louisville. That's going to go throughout the morning hours on this Wednesday as that threat will continue to march off towards the east into our eastern communities and then closer to the I-75 corridor over the next couple of hours or so. That'll take it out of our viewing area altogether. Jared, if you would, let's pull out, take a look at the entire viewing area and put on the next rad so we can look a little bit farther off to the south. Okay, we still have some pretty heavy weather going on in and around the E-Town area. You can see these various line segments, these Boeing segments, one coming out of Grayson County, heading towards Upton, heading towards Sonora, heading towards the E-Town vicinity. You've already seen some pretty good wind and heavy rainfall in E-Town. Another wave is going to be cruising in your direction here in relatively short order. Another one pushing out of southern sections of Grayson County that's going to clip across Hart County and LaRue County as well. So if you're watching from Munfordville, Bonneville, up to Hodgenville, this weather is certainly headed in your direction. You're going to be looking at some strong winds and some very heavy rainfall as well. And once this zone right there passes by any one location, shifts off to the east of you, that'll be it. Severe weather threat will drop off the table, although the rain will certainly continue as temperatures start to cool off. But we're soon going to be talking about not only Bardstown, but Springfield, Lebanon, down to Campbellsville, Greensburg, and Columbia here in relatively short order. You folks will have that threat for some pretty high winds and heavy rainfall here over the next 30 to 60 minutes or so. So just something to be aware of as you make your way out early on this Wednesday morning. A lot of people getting up, getting those kids up, getting them ready to go for school and getting ready for work. May have some delays out there. I know we have some school delays. We're going to be going over to the news desk here shortly and get an update on some of those school delays and any and all damage reports that have come in to our newsroom. We'll do that again in just a few minutes. All right, farther off to the north, Jared, check out the Doppler area once again around Jefferson County, and certainly some heavy rainfall, but now shifting away from the downtown area. Yeah, it definitely is. You know, Oldham County is getting hit pretty hard right now with that possible wind gusts and very intense rain that Matt was talking about a minute ago. Also, pretty much right along the Snyder at this time as well, from 71 back towards 65, and then you had that activity in parts of Bullitt County, Kentucky as well. But you were talking about the stuff down toward the south, and I just want to mention, and you were saying it as well, it's a good point. If you're south of the parkways and east of 65, you know, you're still close to 70 degrees. The wind energy, guess what? It's not gone anywhere yet. And the chances of severe weather for our southeastern counties is going to be there for the next couple of hours anyway, until we get this line through the entire viewing area and go over to just some plain old rain. Yeah, the Boeing segment that was just southwest of E-Town still looked kind of mean out there. So we're going to have to watch that one very, very closely as that moves off to the northeast as well. All right, severe thunderstorm warnings continue in effect. Tornado warnings for the metro, although I think it's safe to say that a good portion of the metro is now clear of any tornadic threat. The exception would be the far east end, out around the Gene Snyder, out around Lake Forest, for example, and even that will quickly race off to the east, and we can pretty much say goodbye to the tornado warnings for portions of the metro. Same can be said down into Bullitt County. Right now, some pretty heavy weather very close to Mount Washington and then down along the Nelson and Bullitt County line. That too will take it on into Spencer County and Nelson County. Tornado warnings will be allowed to expire here in relatively short order, not only for northern Bullitt County, but all of the metro. And again, the good news, no official touchdowns. We haven't had any confirmed touchdowns around the metro, although we have had some pretty strong winds move on through and winds clocked upwards of around 60 miles an hour in portions of the metro. Certainly enough to rattle the homes out there and perhaps cause a few power outages and down tree limbs as well. All right, it's running now from eastern and northeastern Clark County through Oldham County, the far east end of Jefferson County, and then down into eastern Bullitt County, E-Town, and points south. We're getting into Hart County. That is the zone, that narrow zone, where the severe threat is still quite high along and east of there. West of there, even though the rain is coming down, the severe threat is done for the morning. But you can see these little bowing segments taking on those backward sea appearances, those little indentations in the heavier rain shield. That's where the winds are very chaotic. And from time to time, those storms, those rain clouds can grow high enough in the atmosphere and tap some of those real strong winds that have been blowing for a good chunk of the night and bring them right down towards the ground in the form of a damaging wind gust. We've seen that on occasion ever since these things really got going in southern portions of Illinois, and the trend has just worked its way eastward throughout the course of this early Wednesday morning. That is for sure. Right now you can see Munfordville getting close to getting rocked by some pretty strong wind and some very heavy rain as well.
Yeah, and Jay, we'll have to watch possibly for a very strong wind gust in that part of our viewing area, very far southern areas this morning as that continues toward the east. Back in the metro, once again, we had the tornado warning that officially continues for the eastern part of the city, and that warning goes, Jay, until, let's see, 4:55 a.m. along and east of I-65, but really that threat, you know, is from the Snyder and points east now. If you're along I-65, it's just pouring down rain with the severe weather threat going away. In terms of power outages, the latest update from LG&E is 3,000 on their website in the metro area, with some surrounding areas seeing more minor outages so far. So it could have been a lot worse. Hopefully that number does not continue to go up.
If you would do me a big favor, I know we're going to attenuate some, but let's go over to the live radar scan here on Super Doppler real quick. Okay, you can see where the actual threat is still alive and well, and that is this darker shading of red running from LaGrange. Now this is far east and northeastern Clark County in southern Indiana. Then it runs through eastern portions of Oldham County, now into far western Shelby County, still across extreme southeastern Jefferson County down to near Mount Washington. That's why the tornado warnings remain in effect. National Weather Service is just going to let these things expire, even though we haven't had any official touchdowns. And on the radar scope, there hasn't been much in the way of tight rotation for quite some time. But again, they're just going to let those things expire. But new severe thunderstorm warnings have been issued out ahead of this Boeing segment for winds that are still going to be quite high and a lot of heavy rainfall. Once again, from about the Snyder and points west through the Waterston, the downtown area, Floyd County, Harrison County, Brandenburg, all the way off to the west. Yeah, it's going to rain. It's going to rain for quite some time. It's going to be blustery, and temperatures will be slowly falling, but the severe threat is now done. If you're watching from Bedford, if you're watching from Newcastle, Shelbyville, Cropper down towards Taylorsville Lake, Bardstown, and then points south from there, you still have the severe weather threat and will have it until this line, this wind-driven line of heavy rain, moves on through, and then again that severe threat will drop off the table for everybody. I'd say about another hour, hour and a half for the entire viewing area, and we should be done with the severe threat for this Wednesday morning. Matt, Suzanne, what do you guys have?
You know, it's interesting because we were talking about the heavy rain. Obviously, we're concerned about the powerful winds that are associated with this storm, but we are seeing quite a bit of water associated with a number of these storms. In fact, in Grayson County, they reported 1/4 of an inch in about 15 minutes as those storms passed through. We have a lot of reports on our Facebook page, basically of people saying their houses were completely rattling as those storms were passing through the region. We did have someone report, obviously this is an unofficial number, but he estimated in Middletown about a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust at his house.
You know, and that wouldn't be too far-fetched, seeing as what we've, you know, been monitoring on the radar. Now, in terms of actual measurements, we had a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust at Fort Knox. didn't see that. It was closer to 40 miles per hour at Louisville International.
Right.
So, you know, it fluctuates, and it has been very isolated where the strongest gusts have been. But like you said, everyone's getting the rain. I think that's what it's going to transition to as we look toward and forward to the morning commute. It's going to be a heavy rain event for the metro. People on our social media sites have been asking about if JCPS is going to make a call on any sort of school delays or anything like that. They haven't yet, and I would assume they're operating on a normal schedule and will continue to do so as the strongest storms push off to our east. It's going to be a wet morning at the bus stop, but it's going to be a normal one.
And the bottom line is we do have a number of delays that can be found at WLKY.com, basically 2-hour delays from many locations. We had a report of a roof that was damaged in Salem, Indiana. We also had a report on our Facebook page. I'm trying to find out where, from Missy Clark, who said that part of a tree fell on top of her house, actually when she was in the bathtub with her son trying to take shelter. So good place to be, of course. Other than that, we haven't had a tremendous number of damage reports. That's not unusual. It's nighttime. Everyone's asleep, maybe in their place of shelter. I think once the sun comes up, we'll have a better indication of the damage that was perhaps incurred by some of these storms passing through.
And when it is safe to do so, and when the rain tapers off a little bit, especially what you can't see outside your window, please give us the latest in your neighborhood so we can pass it along and make sure that everyone gets the information, because you're our eyes and ears, our ground truth out there this morning. You know, it was just a couple of days ago we were asking for this in terms of whether or not it was sleet, snow, or ice, and so now we're just doing this again, but with the severe weather. So coming up, just turned over to 4:53. The strongest of the storms now starting to transition east of the I-65 corridor. Behind the strong storms, though, we'll have several hours of a steady soaking rain. But to track the strongest edge of those storms, send it back over to Chief Meteorologist Jay Cardosi.
Matt, Suzanne, thanks so very much, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, some very wet weather on the way the next couple of hours, even for the metro, but the severe threat is now bypassing Louisville, pushing off towards the east. Here is Super Doppler radar showing all of our counties and what's going on, and you can see this segment that now extends from far east and northeastern Clark County through far eastern Oldham County and then down into western Shelby, western Spencer, and then it arcs back along I-65, finally down into Hart County. That's where the severe threat is right now, and areas east of there, that's where the severe threat will be for, let's say, the next hour, hour and a half as that line segment continues to push eastbound. Everybody behind that brighter shade or that darker shade of red, if you will, we are done with the severe weather, and that includes pretty much all of Jefferson County now. All right, so let's do some tracking here for you. Going to track the northern extent of this line segment as it's pushing towards places like Carroll County, Trimble County, Henry County, and Shelby County on into Spencer County. And you can see places like Oldham, Smithville, Bethlehem, Todds Point, and Saluda. Next couple of minutes, it's going to be very close to your region. Mount Pleasant, Smithfield, Sulphur, Elk Creek, and Bedford. The next 5 to 10 minutes or so, it could be impacting your area. Gusty winds and some heavy rainfall. Finchville, Eminence, Newcastle, Campbellsburg, and Taylorsville, anywhere from 10 to 13 minutes out. Be on the lookout for some heavy rain and also some very gusty winds. Okay, as we go a little bit farther south now, as the line segments are heading towards places like Bardstown and Hodgenville. Heavy weather just now moving through E-Town with gusty winds that were likely upwards of 50, maybe even isolated 60 miles per hour with that little Boeing segment. Well, this is now heading off towards the east-northeast. Places like Booth, Tonyville, Lebanon Junction, Boston, and Roanoke will be in the path of that line segment here shortly. Heavy rainfall, gusty winds likely. Tanner, Hodgenville, Scuffletown, Nelsonville, and Boundary Oak. The next 7 to 10 minutes out, this line segment will impact your community and communities nearby. Finally, as we go a little bit farther down the list, it'll impact Bardstown probably in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So far, nothing has happened this morning in Springfield, Lebanon, Campbellsville, Greensburg, as well as Columbia, but it is headed in your direction. And this area, this line, is looking quite impressive once again, looking kind of mean on the radar scope, looks to maybe be intensifying somewhat, and that will especially be true if we can, if it starts to bow out some and takes on those backward sea appearances. But the storm tracker is showing places like Munfordville right now, Hodgenville in the next 10 minutes or so. Howardstown, 19 minutes out. Greensburg, about 26 minutes out. In Columbia, it'll be 30 to 45 minutes until it gets you. And I'll tell you what, the farther south you go, these things have really been ferocious. We had, what was it, Jared, in Nashville, a wind gust reported to be over 100 miles an hour?
Yeah, that was, I think, maybe pretty close to the airport. That was reported on our chat room here. We're going to try to confirm that. Obviously, there will be a lot of damage if that is indeed the case, Jay. But Tennessee has been raked tonight. A lot of tornado warnings down that way. And once again, it looks like we may have escaped the worst of it this go-around, which is some great news for our counties.
Absolutely. But we will continue to monitor places like Lebanon, Campbellsville, Greensburg, and Columbia, as well as Springfield here over the next half hour to an hour, simply because we still have temperatures at 70 degrees. Dew points are running fairly high, and the line segment is still off to your west, heading in your direction, so it's still possible you folks could pick up some very high winds and heavy rainfall here in the not-so-distant future, so something to watch out for. All right, as we go a little bit farther off to the north, finally what I'd like to do is take a look at the warnings that we have. The Doppler network, this is a list of all the warnings in yellow, and they're all yellow. Severe thunderstorm warnings, which include Oldham County, Henry County, as well as Trimble County, down through Shelby, Spencer, Nelson, Southern Bullitt, the eastern one half of Hardin, including you folks in E-Town, LaRue, including you folks in Hodgenville. Severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. Same can be said for Hart County. And no doubt, I think these warnings will be extended farther off to the east a bit later on this morning. So if you're watching from the capital city, Lawrenceburg, down towards Springfield, and then farther south to Greensburg, Campbellsville, Lebanon, as well as Adair County, Columbia, you folks in Columbia, severe thunderstorm warnings will likely be issued for your area in relatively short order. But the metro now clear of any and all warnings, and we will stay clear the way it looks right now for the remainder of the morning. As you look farther off to the west, we're now being cleared of any and all watches and warnings, and that quieter weather trend will continue to work east and southeast throughout the course of the morning. There are all the tornado warnings Jared Heil was talking about from about Nashville and points off to the south. It's possible some of that weather may try to eke into far southern Kentucky. We'll monitor it, no question about it. Keep you posted. But at this point in time, some great news in that all the tornado warnings have now been discontinued or canceled. No tornadoes have officially touched down in and around Louisville, although we have had reports, isolated reports, of winds as high as 60 to 65 miles per hour or so, and certainly some very heavy rainfall, but now that is starting to work off to the east. Okay, the heavy rain is going to continue for quite some time. Temperatures will slowly start to cool off, but as we look forward in time, and we're going to have your extended forecast coming up here momentarily, as we look forward in time, we have a huge change as we're going to go from these spring-like conditions back into the dead of winter time. By Friday morning, we're talking about extremely cold air moving back into the Ohio Valley for a short time. It won't be around long, but it is going to be cold on